In this section, we are talking about political parties. This is an area where to understand how things work in the United States, it's actually incredibly helpful to think about how political parties in the United States compare to parties in other democracies. And when we do that, it helps to illustrate why things function the way they are in the United States and what, if anything, we might do to improve the functioning of political parties. So, why do political parties exist? Why not just vote for people? Well, in any large society like the United States or even the state of California, if we had to figure out who each individual was running for public office, that would be incredibly time consuming, and it would also be very difficult, even with modern technology where we could look up people's backgrounds and their ideas. What political parties do when they function well is they're a kind of shortcut that helps us make sense of who a particular candidate is. If a candidate says that she is a socialist and she's a good socialist, then I don't have to know everything about her in order to have some predictability about what she's going to do in office. And what we're trying to do when we vote is we're trying to get some predictability about what kinds of policies we are likely to see if a particular person gets elected. So what political parties do, if they do it well, is to present voters with a policy platform and with an ideology, a coherent set of beliefs that guide members of those parties. And there can be flexibility within a party. Not everyone is exactly the same, but it should place some limits on candidate behavior. It also provides for accountability. So if someone says they are a Republican, a conservative Republican, and you vote for them based on that, and then when they get into office, they behave like a progressive Democrat, then the parties should be able to discipline that person in a variety of ways by not giving that person an influential position in Congress, for example, if they were elected to Congress, by not supporting that person's ideas for legislation or policy, and by not supporting that person when he or she wants to run for re-election. So parties give us a shortcut to understanding what someone is likely to do in office, and it should provide some discipline for that person as well. Parties should also help us through their policy proposals, through their public statements, make sense of what can often be very complex political issues. Again, if they do it well and if they are largely all on the same page. And finally, parties can make government work better. As a big organization, they can provide coherence and efficiency where a bunch of individuals acting independently might not. So when we want to understand what is going on with American politics and American political parties, one of the first things that should jump out at you is the infighting within the Democratic Party, within the Republican Party, and the incredible division and partisanship and deadlock between the two major parties. So your textbook opens with a very illustrative story about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who represents the Bronx in the House of Representatives. She is 29. She's the youngest woman ever elected to the House of Representatives. And she beat out a long-term Democratic incumbent who had been there for decades. And your book opens again with this story. What she represents, and the point your book is trying to make, is there's a lot of division within the Democratic Party between the wing that she represents and the wing represented by people like Nancy Pelosi, who is from California, from the Bay Area, and is the Speaker of the House. Within the Republican Party, there are also all kinds of divisions between libertarians who want a small government and ultimate kind of individual freedom, whether it's about reproductive rights or low taxes or drug legalization. But then people who are very different, social conservatives, conservative Christians who want the government actually to set some limits on what we can do with our bodies, whether it's drug use or reproductive rights or something else. So within the Republican Party, there are also these divisions. So one of the things to think about is why, if there are all these disagreements even within a political party, we only have two to choose from. The United States is the most diverse society in the world. We are incredibly diverse and we're huge, and we have a range of demographics and political ideas and subcultures and all kinds of things that would indicate, tremendous diversity. And so it's strange that we only have these two choices, and those are two choices in terms of our political parties that are really unsatisfying for most people. Very few people are perfectly happy with the political choices that they are given. This becomes even stranger when we think about other democracies. We are a rarity among democracies and only having two parties. Most democracies have more than two. They have 4 or 5. In cases like Italy, they can have 8 or 9 parties that can win election. Brazil has literally dozens. The average democracy has between maybe 4 and 7 political parties that win office. And we only have 2. So in the next section, we're going to talk specifically about why we only have 2 political parties and what difference it makes for the kinds of policies we get.